I don't know what goes on in the minds of Conservative politicians, but it seems to me they're prepared to say anything and blame anyone for their failures. I think it would be a lot better if they actually came out and admitted what they'd done wrong, instead of trying to continue to scapegoat. Earlier we fed our pet cow Flash some pears. They're very small because it's a bit early yet, and as you can see, she gets a bit carried away and nips your finger. And before we get going, if you haven't subscribed, don't forget to subscribe and comment below, let me know what you think. The Conservative Party's leadership election has begun. And you would think, having gone through such an absolute pummelling in the last election, that the Conservatives would have realised that they need to really come to terms with why they lost. The Conservatives voters either stayed at home, didn't vote, or most of them went to the Labour Party. Some of them went to Reform, but more voters went to the Labour Party. So you would think that the Conservative Party would realise that their voters' values are built in competency, social democracy, making sure that we've got a functioning NHS, welfare state, and all of those issues. But oh no, Tom Tugenandhat, one of the contestants, the moderate one, supposedly.
Let's talk about some of the things you've spoken about. In the Telegraph, there's a piece, obviously, that you've written, and you've spoken about leaving the European Convention on Human Rights. How can you sell that to the British public if you were to become leader of the Conservative Party? So
what I've been very clear about is the reality that over the last few years we have failed to deliver. You know, it's not a secret to say that we failed to deliver on the migrant numbers, and we can see that time and time again. And we need to have every option on the table. And what I'm clear about is that this is about making sure the institutions that we're part of work for the British people. Now, there are many institutions that we're part of, some of which are recent, some of which are older. And we need to be absolutely clear that the ones that we are members of deliver for the British people, and where they don't, they can be reformed. Maybe we can derogate, as I've been calling for on the ECHR since 2013. Or indeed, if it needs to, we should leave them. Because this is about delivering for the British people. This is about restoring trust and making sure that we deliver on the policies, the priorities of the British people, and we're able to serve our great country.
Is the European Convention on Human Rights a bad thing?
No, but it's something that was passed in 1951, and, you know, our British Parliament has changed remarkably in the last 4 weeks. Many other things have changed in the last...
Why is it good enough for the UK, then?
I'm sorry, forgive me, Naga, I couldn't hear.
Sorry, why is it good enough for other European countries, but not for the UK, then?
That's not what I've said. What I've said is that we need to look clear-eyed at all the institutions that the UK is a member of, and we need to make sure that they serve the interests of the British people. And I think that's a very simple test that we should be applying to every single organisation that we're a part of. Because the point about all these institutions is they're there to serve the prosperity and happiness of the British people. They're there to keep us safe. And there are many different institutions around the world, some of which worked 100 years ago and don't work today, others which worked a few months ago and don't work today. And we need to make sure we're constantly reviewing what it is that serves the interests of the great British people, because this is about delivery. This is about restoring trust. When we don't deliver, when we don't have the trust of the British people, you know, we lead to the kind of electoral results that you've just seen. So we need to be absolutely clear-eyed. We need to be absolutely at the service of the British people, and that's what I'm saying.
It's just incredibly shocking that they cannot understand the reason that Britain rejected them in the last election was because of the fact they delivered Brexit, which has ensured carnage for Britain. We are no longer able to function because of the Conservatives and their Brexit, which they promised would sort out our problems, but it's made everything a million times worse. And now they're promising to leave the ECHR, which I can tell you now, but I don't need to tell you because Tom can tell you. He told everyone exactly what leaving the ECHR means for Britain.
There are many treaties around the world. If you want to leave one, please explain to me how you're going to address the gaps that they create. Now, people who've said they want to leave the convention, I can understand the argument. It does raise some pretty big questions, whether that's about the Good Friday Agreement, whether it's about the devolved administrations, whether it's about our relationships with other countries, including in fact the TCA, you know, the Windsor Agreement with the European Union.
On all those fronts, you suggest it would be harmful?
Well, I'm just suggesting these are really big questions, and don't throw around words unless you can answer the questions. And so what we need to do is make sure if you're looking at the future in a different way, that's fine. Set out the questions, set out the answers.
And yet, to be able to lead the Conservative Party, he's got to appeal to their membership base, because for them it's all about trying to stop immigration. Even though Brexit was all about trying to stop immigration, but actually Brexit ensured immigration quadrupled, as Remainers said it would, and yet we've still got them braying and wanting to leave international treaties which keep us prosperous and safe. It just beggars belief.
I think it's in Britain's broad interest to stay in the ECHR, but it's got to be reformed. It's clearly not as fit for purpose as it was in the 1950s when it was set up.
Damien Green, Conservative MP, is trying to say the ECHR isn't fit for purpose. Well, I'm sorry, Damien. The thing that isn't fit for purpose is the Conservative Party and most certainly our voting system.
And so I wrote an article along with my colleague Matt Wallman, we were sort of co-chairs of the One Nation caucus of Conservative MPs, saying that absolutely the next leader of the Conservative Party should lead the way in reforming the ECHR.
But why is Tom Tugendhanhat then saying I'm ready to lead
it? He's saying that as one of a much wider article.
But I'm asking you just about that point. Why is he saying that?
Well, he's saying that because I assume he wants a reformed ECHR. It would be a very sensible thing for him to want.
So are you saying he doesn't really believe?
I support that. Well, he doesn't. When Nick says he wants to leave the ECHR, that is not true.
We ended up with a disastrous Brexit because David Cameron appeased his party by saying that he could somehow reform the European Union. This is exactly what Tom Tugendhat is now saying about the ECHR. It's completely mad and dangerous.
The Telegraph. What is your vision for the Conservative Party?
Well, Jacob, my vision for the Conservative Party is one that I think we all share, which is to be conservative again. And frankly, we failed. Let's be honest with ourselves. The last few years, we failed to deliver. We failed to achieve the aims that you and I championed as much as we could in Parliament and in government at different points, and we failed to do things like bring migrant numbers down, bring taxes down, and deliver that conservative agenda that we know makes this country prosper. And my vision is that we should actually deliver. Now, I've got a track record of doing that, as you know, delivering on operations in Afghanistan and Iraq as a soldier, delivering in Parliament, changing the policy, as you know, on China, on Russia and on Iran, which, as you also know, got me sanctioned for the privilege. And then most recently as a minister, changing.
In your piece in the Telegraph, you emphasised trust.
Yeah.
And that we broke trust with the British people because we didn't do what we said we would do. But you and I were both part of that breach of trust. Why should people trust us in future when we've been central to the governments that have just broken that trust?
Well, this is where we've got to rebuild, frankly. This is where what we've got to do is we've got to own the mistakes that we made. We've got to be open and honest with those areas where we got it wrong. And we've got to listen to the British people very clearly and be ready to make the changes that we need to make. Because this country needs, I think, it needs a Conservative Party. It needs a party arguing for those centre-right values that make individuals safe, secure.
Conservative Party are not fit for purpose. The Conservative Party need to set about reforming the Conservative Party if they want to become electable. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe.